All right, welcome back, everyone. I want to do something fun here. One of the things I always tell my students is one of the best reasons to study history is that if you get a chance to travel places, the places you go and visit have a lot more meaning to them. I actually did a video already of my top five, just all the places I've been to ever. And as I was making that, I was thinking, I've been to Italy and France and England and Spain and Greece and all these places. And for each one of those places, I could easily come up with a top five. And so I decided to make one just for the country of Israel because, I've been there multiple times. I know the history really well. And, there's just so much history there that goes back so far. I figured this is a good one to start with. And if people enjoy this, I could do my top five of great best historical places to visit in Italy or England or other places. But Israel is just amazing how much there is. And these are all places I've been to. And even if you don't get a chance to travel there, this video will just help you learn some things as well as you go through it and hopefully enjoy it with some images and, accounts of amazing stories. So number five is a place called Masada. This is a fun thing to do. You can actually climb the top of this thing. It's a fortress. I've actually climbed it. Probably not the best idea in the middle of the summer when it was like 110 degrees, but I was much younger back then when I climbed it. There is a rail car you can go, so don't worry if like you can't climb that high. There's a rail car you could take up there, a cable rail car. And what you have up there is a fortress that goes back to a story back to 73 AD, where there was a conflict between the Romans and the Jews were led by a man named Eleazar ben Yair, and they were trying to fight off the Romans. I actually do have a couple very long, detailed lectures on the conflicts between Israel and Judea, and the Jewish people in Judea and Israel and the Romans, I should say. And so if you really want to learn more, I'll drop those links in the comments, in the description, I should say, and you can kind of just learn a lot more about the conflict of Masada, the story of something called the destruction of the Second Temple, the conflict with a man with Hadrian in the Romans, just all sorts of stuff there. But this was a fortress where basically the Jewish people stood there fighting off the Romans for a long time until eventually just they all ended up committing suicide actually because they knew that if the Romans got them, they would do such horrible things to them. So again, I'll leave the detail of the video in there, but it's a really cool place to visit, well preserved. Again, if you have the energy, you climb up the top of it, and it's just stunning views as well you get from up there. So that's one really cool place to go visit, Masada. Number four is one of my personal favorites, a place called Akko. I know it's spelled Acre, but we oftentimes pronounce it Akko. This is a great place. There's a lot of history in the city of Akko. I remember one year I went there. I've been there more than once, and I met an archaeologist who was working there. And one year I went, and I think I came back maybe like 4 or 5 years later, and I was in awe of how much more they discovered. And I'll never forget talking to this archaeologist, and he said, there's still like 70-80% of this city still unearthed. So again, this is another city in Israel. And my favorite part of visiting Akko is this area of the Knights Templars. I actually have a little video on the Knights Templars as well. And what you're seeing in these images is, first of all, it's on the coast. So this is just an image of me right there on the coast there in the Mediterranean Sea. And the other images are of the Knights Hall and the Knights Fortress of the Knights Templars and an escape tunnel that they used. And if you want to learn more about, everything that happened with the Knights Templars, I have a lecture on that. There's a lot of other history, as I said, about the city of Akko, but that's my personal favorite thing to do and go visit there is everything associated with the Knights Templars. So that's a really cool place to see. Number three is a place called Bechian. Now, this is probably the least well known of all the places, but this is just crazy cool. What you are looking at is an archaeological site that has about 20 different settlements and civilizations that were exposed there from basically the Neolithic period onwards. So you could literally go there and you could see things from the Neolithic period, from the Byzantine period. So you have some like Byzantine mosaics. You see some Roman columns that fell in an earthquake. So you see Hellenistic time, Roman time, Byzantine times. And it's not that big of an area. You're talking maybe a couple football field size, and you're just walking through here, and it's just one civilization on top of another, and you have some baths there as well. Really cool stuff to see. And I'll actually have a link I'll put in the descriptions as well on this one, that just gives you more information about all, because I mean, I could do a whole video hours just on Bechian, because there's literally so many civilizations on this archaeological site that have been there. So if you go to Israel, a lot of people go to Tel Aviv, a lot of people go to the big cities, and I always tell people, get out of the big cities, find these little things that are really cool. And again, if you go in the summer, it gets pretty warm, but really cool things to see. Okay. Number two, I guess not so much historical, I'm cheating, but it's just too cool not to include, is the Dead Sea. Again, somewhere I've been to, and you can see the sign there. It says that's 416, negative 416, folks, that's meters, not feet, below sea level. It is the lowest place on the earth. You see over here on this bottom right picture, all of this is the ground. This is salt. So when you walk there, it's literally salt coming out. And if you go into the Dead Sea, you walk in and you just float. It is the weirdest feeling. People from around the world go to the Dead Sea because they believe it has great healing properties, and it kind of heals your skin, your ailments. It is really cool. One of the things, if you ever go there, obviously you have to be careful. You can't be splashing water around because it's so salty. Get a tiny bit in your eye and it will burn your eye like crazy. But if you put your hand down into the dirt and you pull out like salt, occasionally, and I've actually been able to do this once, you find a perfect cube of salt. It's literally a perfect scientific cube of salt. And you could just see it there and you're just kind of in awe. So just the feeling of going in there, and it's actually located very close to Masada. So a lot of people actually go to the Dead Sea and then they go to Masada. You could probably do that on the same day if you wanted to, if you're ever there. So that's just such an amazing place to see in the earth if you ever get a chance. And it is kind of evaporating, it is full of salt, it's evaporating. There's almost technically two Dead Seas. If you look at it from a picture overhead, you can see how it's divided. But really neat place to see. And of course, the number one place, if you ever go to Israel, historical place, you can't talk about Israel without Jerusalem. And there's a ton of history in Jerusalem. I just picked three particular things here. You have the Wailing Wall. And again, I have another video on Solomon's Temple and the history of Solomon's Temple. I'll leave that in the description as well. Of course, you have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That's what you see on the right there, and inside there where Christians believe that's the tomb of Christ. And then you see on the top there what's called the Dome of the Rock, which of course is an important monument to the Muslims. And so if you go to Jerusalem, you have these different quarters. You have the Jewish quarter, the Muslim quarter, the Armenian quarter, the Christian quarter. And then there's a lot of other history as well as there. There's things from the Crusades there. So Jerusalem is a place that I get, for a lot of people, it's a holy city, right? It's important to them for religious reasons, and a lot of people go there for pilgrimages, and I understand that, of course. Religion is very important. I've been to, I didn't even put the picture there, the Via Dolorosa, the street where Christ walked with the cross. You could go there and see that. But just from a pure history standpoint, it's just stunning because, all the different civilizations and people and history that were there. It's remarkably cool. So I have a lot of history on ancient Israel on my channel, but I'll drop again specifically the ones on Solomon's Temple. So anyways, those are just my top 5 places to see in Israel. If you ever get a chance to go there or you want to, explore more, again, I'll leave some links. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that interesting. If I get a lot of views on this and stuff, I'll do ones on England and Italy and France and all these other places I've been to that there's just so much rich history to. All right, I hope everyone enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Please subscribe and share.